The first bullet struck the iron gate 3 feet from Isabella Grant. The sound ripped through the rain like thunder. She stopped beneath the cold white lights of the Costa mansion, clutching the infant tighter against her chest as armed guards shouted from behind the stone walls. Black vehicles blocked the road behind her. Their headlights cut through the storm. Men were stepping out. Isabella could not see their faces, but she saw the guns in their hands. The baby began to cry. "Please," Isabella whispered, pressing one hand over the soft wool blanket. "Please, Sophia, not now." A second bullet struck the stone pillar beside her. Pieces of pale marble sprayed across the driveway. The massive front doors of the mansion opened. A tall man appeared beneath the golden light. He wore a black shirt with the sleeves buttoned at his wrists. No jacket, no umbrella, no visible weapon. He did not need one. Every guard around him moved with the silent precision of men who feared disappointing him more than they feared being shot. Alessandro Costa walked down the mansion steps as rain darkened his hair and shoulders. His face held no alarm, no confusion, only a cold and measured fury. His gaze moved from the vehicles on the road to Isabella, then settled on the baby trembling against her chest. "Who are you?" he asked. Isabella could barely hear him over the storm. She forced herself to take one step forward. "My name is Isabella Grant. I need to speak with Alessandro Costa." The men around him exchanged glances. The tall man did not. "You are speaking to him." The baby cried harder. Another burst of gunfire struck the gate. Alessandro moved before Isabella understood what was happening. One moment he stood several feet away. The next, his body was in front of hers. He reached behind his back, drew a pistol, and fired twice toward the road. One vehicle swerved. Costa guards answered with controlled bursts from behind the walls. Alessandro turned without lowering his weapon. "Get inside." Isabella did not move. "I have something that belongs to you." His expression changed by less than a breath. Yet she saw it. Something dark entered his eyes. "Nothing belongs to me unless I have taken it." Isabella pulled the blanket away from the face of the crying infant. The little girl opened frightened gray eyes. Eyes that looked exactly like his. "This baby does," Isabella said. For the first time, the most feared man in Chicago looked uncertain. The hesitation lasted only a second. Then another bullet struck the gate. Alessandro caught Isabella by the arm and pulled her toward the mansion. His grip was hard enough to leave no room for refusal, but careful enough not to hurt her. The doors closed behind them. The echo of gunfire became a distant vibration through the walls. Isabella stood in a marble entrance hall beneath a crystal chandelier. Soaked from the rain, breathing too quickly, 20 armed men surrounded her. At the center of them stood Alessandro Costa. His attention remained fixed on the baby. "What is her name?" he asked. "Sophia." "How old?" "6 months." "Who is the mother?" Isabella reached into the inside pocket of her coat. Every weapon in the room rose. She froze. Alessandro lifted 2 fingers. The weapons lowered. Slowly. Isabella removed a folded letter sealed inside a plastic cover. "Her mother told me to give you this." Alessandro took it. The paper inside was covered in handwriting. He recognized it before he read a single word. Isabella saw the recognition move through him like a blade pressed between ribs. "Elena wrote it," she said. His gaze snapped to hers. That was not her name. Isabella felt the room become colder. "I know." The guards looked at Alessandro, waiting. He opened the letter. His face remained still as he read, but the hand holding the page tightened until the paper shook. "Alessandro, if Isabella is standing in front of you, then the life I built has already fallen apart. The baby in her arms is your daughter. Her name is Sofia Valentina Costa. I kept her from you because I was afraid of the man you were and the family surrounding you. I was also afraid of my own father. He knows Sofia exists. He will use her blood to take everything your grandfather built. Trust Isabella. She is the only person who has never betrayed this child. Protect them both. Do what you should have done for me. Choose a human life over an empire. Valentina. Alessandro read the letter twice. Then he folded it carefully. Too carefully. A man with silver hair stepped beside him. His name was Carlo Costa. He was the younger brother of the late father of Alessandro, and one of the few men permitted to speak without being invited. This could be a trap, Carlo said. It is a trap, Alessandro replied. His gaze remained on Isabella. The only question is who built it. Isabella adjusted the baby against her shoulder. I did not come here to trap you. You arrived at my gate with gunmen behind you. They found us in Boston. I changed vehicles twice. I stayed away from airports. I did everything Elena taught me. Valentina, he corrected. She called herself Elena when I met her. And when did she tell you the truth? 3 months before Sofia was born. Alessandro took one slow step closer. Isabella was not a small woman. She had spent years hearing delicate insults dressed as concern, seeing strangers judge her full figure before learning her name. Standing before Alessandro, she suddenly felt every damp fold of her coat, every strand of hair stuck to her face, every part of herself the world had told her to hide. He did not look at her that way. His stare was colder than judgment. It was investigation. He studied her face as though every breath might be evidence. Where is Valentina? I do not know. When did you last see her? 9 days ago. Why did you wait 9 days to come here? Because she made me promise I would never bring Sofia to the Costa family. The silence around them became absolute. Carlo gave a humorless laugh. Then why are you here? Because 4 men broke into our apartment tonight. Alessandro looked at the baby again. And you escaped them. I knew the building better than they did. That was not an answer. Isabella met his eyes. I pushed one man down a laundry staircase, locked another in the basement, and climbed through a bathroom window with Sofia tied to my chest. One of the younger guards looked almost impressed. Alessandro did not. How did they follow you here? I do not know. That means there is something you are not telling me. There are many things I am not telling you. Every weapon rose again. Isabella did not look away. Alessandro walked closer until only the sleeping child separated them. The baby had quieted. Her tiny hand rested against Isabella. Alessandro lowered his voice. You came into my home carrying a child you claim is mine. You brought an army to my gate. Now you admit you are keeping secrets. I am keeping promises. To a woman who lied to me, to a mother who was terrified, of me, of everyone. The words landed harder than Isabella expected. Alessandro looked down at Sofia. The baby opened her eyes. For several seconds, father and daughter stared at one another. Sofia reached from the blanket and wrapped her fingers around one of the buttons on his shirt. No one moved. Alessandro slowly lifted one hand. His fingertips stopped inches from her face. He did not touch her. Not yet. Take them upstairs, he told the guards. Isabella stepped back. We are not prisoners. Until I know who followed you. Everyone in this house is a prisoner. I will not let you take Sofia away from me. His gaze rose to hers. No one will take her away from you tonight. The promise should have comforted her. Instead, the calm certainty in his voice frightened her more than shouting would have. A woman named Teresa led Isabella through the mansion. The halls were lined with dark portraits, carved wood, and windows that showed nothing beyond the rain. The bedroom prepared for her was larger than the entire apartment she had left behind. A crib arrived within minutes. So did warm clothes, bottles, diapers, medicine, and a pediatric nurse. Isabella refused to let the nurse touch Sofia until she had checked every medical item herself. Alessandro watched from the doorway. You inspect infant formula for poison, he asked. I inspect everything. Strangers bring near her. You are in a house filled with strangers. Exactly. His mouth almost moved. It was not a smile. Not even close. Yet something in his expression shifted. The nurse examined Sophia while Isabella remained beside the crib. The baby was tired but unharmed. Alessandro listened to every word. When the nurse left, he entered the room. Two guards remained outside. I need a sample for a paternity test, he said. Isabella nodded. I expected that. You will be tested as well. I am not her mother. I know. She felt a strange sting at the flatness of his reply. He had already decided that no woman who looked like her could be connected to a man like him. The thought was old and familiar. It still hurt. Isabella lifted her chin. Then why test me because I do not believe in coincidences? You believe I might be related to her. I believe people tell the truth only when lying becomes more dangerous. A medical technician collected the samples. Alessandro never stopped watching Isabella. After the technician left, he placed the letter from Valentina on a table. You said men broke into your apartment. Yes. What did they want, Sophia? How do you know? They called her the Moretti heir. The name changed the room. Alessandro went still. Isabella continued. One of them said her blood could open a vault no key could reach. Did Valentina explain what that meant? Only part of it. Tell me. Isabella looked toward the door. No. The word seemed impossible in a room that belonged to him. Alessandro approached slowly. You misunderstand where you are. No. You misunderstand why I came. His gaze dropped briefly to her mouth, then returned to her eyes. Why did you come? Because I had nowhere else to take her. That is not trust. No. It is desperation. For the first time, anger entered his face. You should be careful with honesty. You asked for it. I can make you answer every question I have. You can frighten me, lock me inside this house, threaten me, and point every gun in Chicago at my head. She stepped closer. But you cannot make me betray Sophia. The air between them felt charged. Alessandro stared at her for a long moment. Then his attention moved to the crib. Sophia had fallen asleep. When he spoke again, his voice was lower. Neither can anyone else. He left before Isabella could answer. The results came before sunrise. Alessandro stood alone in his office while rain moved across the tall windows. The document on his desk contained one sentence that divided his life into everything before and everything after. The probability of paternity exceeded 99%. He had a daughter. For 6 months, she had existed somewhere beyond his reach. She had cried in another home, slept in another room, and depended on people he did not know. He had missed her first smile. He had missed the moment she learned to recognize a voice. He had missed every night someone had protected her from a danger carrying his name. Alessandro picked up a glass of whiskey. He did not drink it. Instead, he threw it into the fireplace. The glass shattered against stone. Flames rose. Carlo entered without knocking. The men from the gate are dead, Carlo said. One carried a Moretti insignia. In simply dar, Alessandro looked at the fire. Matteo knows. That child changes everything. She changes nothing. Carlo stepped closer. Your grandfather placed control of the Costa Shipping Trust in the hands of the first direct descendant born after your 35th birthday. You believed there was no descendant. Now there is. Sophia will inherit controlling ownership when she reaches 21. Until then, her legal guardian can influence the trust. Alessandro turned. The room seemed to shrink around Carlo. Who knows the terms you? Me. The attorneys, Matteo Moretti, clearly learned them. Then one of our attorneys belongs to him. Or the nanny does. Alessandro looked toward the dark ceiling, as though he could see through stone and floors to the room above. Isabella Grant did not look like a weapon. That made her more dangerous. She had soft brown hair, serious green eyes, and a body that carried warmth in every curve. She looked like someone children trusted. She also stood before armed men without trembling and spoke to Alessandro as though fear did not excuse obedience. He had known her face before she came to his gate. For 11 months, his men had searched for Valentina Moretti. A photograph from a Boston train station had shown Valentina walking beside a chubby woman carrying grocery bags. Isabella. Alessandro had ordered surveillance. He had watched silent images of her leaving a daycare center, feeding pigeons in a park, carrying medicine to the apartment of Valentina. At first, she had been only a connection. Then she became a question. Why did a woman with no criminal history change routes every morning? Why did she check reflections in windows? Why did she buy infant supplies months before any public record of a birth? Why did she look over her shoulder with fear, then smile the moment she entered the apartment? He had believed she was protecting Valentina. He had never imagined she was protecting his child. Keep Isabella inside the house, Alessandro said. Carlo narrowed his eyes. Until we know she is innocent, until I know why Matteo wants her alive. Carlo paused. Alive. The men at the gate had clear shots. They aimed around her. Alessandro turned from the window. Someone wanted to frighten her into my house. The question is why. By afternoon, the storm had passed. Isabella woke to silence. Sophia was gone. Panic struck so violently that she stumbled from the bed. The crib was empty. The door opened. Alessandro stood there holding the baby. Sophia rested against his chest. One tiny fist closed around his shirt. The sight stopped Isabella in the middle of the room. He held the child too stiffly, as though afraid a careless breath might break her. Yet Sophia looked comfortable. Where did you take her? Isabella demanded. She was crying. You should have woken me. You had slept for less than 2 hours. Give her to me. Alessandro did not move. Isabella crossed the room and reached for Sophia. Their hands met beneath the blanket. His fingers closed around hers for 1 second. Warmth moved up her arm. Alessandro felt it too. She saw it in the sudden tension of his jaw. He released her immediately. The test confirms she is mine, he said. Isabella pulled Sophia close. I know. You showed no doubt. Elena would not have lied about that. Valentina lied about everything. Not everything. You defend her easily. She is not here to defend herself. His eyes hardened. Do you know what she was doing when I met her? Isabella said nothing. She entered one of my clubs using a false name. She worked for her father. She recorded conversations. She copied financial records. She spent 6 months making me believe she wanted a life with me. Maybe she did. She vanished the night I learned who she was. She was pregnant. She should have told me. Yes. The answer surprised him. Isabella looked at Sophia. She should have told you. She should have given you the chance to choose what kind of father you wanted to be. Alessandro stepped closer. But I understand why she was afraid. His voice became quiet. Are you afraid of me? Isabella considered lying. Yes. He nodded once. Good. That was not the reaction she expected. Fear will keep you alive in this house. Will it keep Sophia alive? His gaze moved to the child. It will not be fear that protects her. What will me? There was no pride in the answer. Only certainty. Later that day, Alessandro ordered the mansion nursery reopened. It had belonged to him when he was a baby. Workers arrived with white furniture, soft lamps, and boxes filled with toys. Isabella stood in the doorway as men who carried guns struggled to assemble a wooden crib. The absurdity almost made her smile. Then she noticed Alessandro watching from the hall. He had changed into a dark suit. He looked again like the man whose name made judges lower their voices. You did not have to rebuild an entire room. Isabella said. She needs one. Babies do not care about expensive furniture. She will have the best. The best thing for her is safety. Then tell me what Valentina told you about the trust. Isabella looked toward the workers. Not here. Alessandro dismissed everyone with a glance. When they were alone, Isabella placed Sofia inside the crib. Valentina said Matteo believed Sofia could make him untouchable. She said the Costa Trust controls ports, warehouses, and shipping routes that his family has wanted for decades. That is true. She told me that if she disappeared, Sofia could not be raised by either family. Alessandro turned toward her. Either family. She believed your family would use Sofia as an heir. She believed her father would use Sofia as leverage. And what do you believe? I believe children should not be born owing adults a kingdom. Something unreadable passed over his face. You speak as though power is a disease. Sometimes it is. Power is the reason you survived last night. No. People protected me last night. Power only decided which people had guns. Alessandro stared at her. She waited for anger. Instead, he walked to the crib. Sofia was awake. She waved both arms toward him. He looked almost offended by the invitation. Pick her up, Isabella said. I do not know how. You learned how to shoot. That is different. Yes. A baby is less forgiving. His gaze moved to her. Was that a joke? No. It almost was. Isabella stepped behind him and guided his hands. One beneath her head, one beneath her back. Keep her close. His broad shoulders became rigid when she touched his wrists. Her body was close enough that he could feel her breath against the back of his neck. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Isabella placed Sofia in his arms. The baby looked up at him. Alessandro looked down. Something silent broke open inside him. Sofia reached for his face and pressed her palm against his cheek. He closed his eyes. Only for a second. When he opened them, Isabella saw the man beneath the empire. Not softness. Not yet. Pain. Ancient and carefully buried. He gave the baby back without speaking. That evening, a package arrived at the front gate. Inside was a small silver rattle stained with mud. Isabella recognized it immediately. It had been in the Boston apartment. Beneath the rattle was a photograph of Valentina tied to a chair. A message had been written across the bottom. Bring the heir to St. Gabriel Church before Sunday. Alessandro studied the photograph. Isabella pressed one hand to her mouth. She is alive. Maybe, he said. What does that mean? It means photographs can lie. Her eyes filled with anger. You think her father created this? I think Matteo Moretti has never done anything without 3 reasons. We have to help her. We will. Isabella looked at him. You do not sound like a man planning a rescue. I sound like a man planning a war. He ordered the estate sealed. No staff member could leave. Every vehicle was searched. Every phone was collected. Isabella was moved into a suite beside the private rooms of Alessandro. When she objected, he gave her one answer. If someone enters this floor, they will have to pass me first. The forced closeness changed the rhythm of the mansion. At night, Isabella heard Alessandro walking in the hall when Sofia cried. He never entered without permission. He only stood outside the door, silent, until the crying stopped. During the day, he conducted meetings from the library while Sofia slept nearby. Men discussed ports, alliance, and murder in quiet voices. The moment the baby stirred, Alessandro raised one hand. Every conversation stopped. Isabella began noticing details that did not fit the monster described in newspapers. He never shouted. He never insulted servants. He remembered every name. He asked the cook to prepare food Isabella liked after seeing her leave dinner untouched. He also had a man dragged from the mansion for lying about a security report. The contradiction disturbed her. So did the way his eyes found her whenever she entered a room. 3 days after her arrival, a family attorney came to the mansion. His name was Everett Shaw. He carried documents concerning the Costa Trust. The papers confirmed that Sophia was the direct heir. They also revealed something Alessandro had not expected. Valentina had legally named Isabella as the guardian of Sophia before the birth. The guardianship had been witnessed, certified, and protected through a sealed federal filing, until a court ruled otherwise. Isabella controlled every decision involving the child. Carlo slammed his hand against the library table. This woman can control the trust. I do not want the trust, Isabella said. That is exactly what someone who wants it would say. Alessandro remained seated. His gaze never left the document. Did you know? He asked. Isabella hesitated. Yes. Carlo turned toward her. You lied. I kept it private. From the father, from everyone. Alessandro, Rosa. The room seemed to darken with him. Leave us, he told the others. Carlo started to object. Now, when the door closed, Alessandro placed both hands on the table. You entered my home knowing you had legal control over my daughter. I entered knowing I had legal responsibility for her. You allowed me to believe you were only a nanny. I am her nanny. You are also the only person capable of blocking every right I have as her father. Isabella felt fear gather beneath her ribs. She refused to step back. Valentina asked me to protect Sophia from both families. And you agreed. Yes. Why? Because someone had to choose the baby. His jaw tightened. You think I would not choose her? I did not know you. You knew enough to come here. I knew you had soldiers, walls, and enough power to stop Matteo. I did not know whether you had a heart. Alessandro crossed the distance between them. He stopped inches away. She had to lift her face to look at him. And now, the question was nearly a whisper. Isabella could feel the heat of him. She could see the restraint in the hand at his side. He wanted to touch her. She did not know whether the touch would be punishment or something more dangerous. Now I know you have one, she said. I do not know what you are willing to do with it. His eyes dropped to her lips. The silence stretched. A knock came at the door. Alessandro stepped away. The interruption felt like a release and a loss. A guard entered. The Moretti family has released a statement to the press. The statement spread across every news channel within an hour. Matteo Moretti claimed that Alessandro had kidnapped his granddaughter and imprisoned the legal guardian. Photographs appeared of Isabella entering the mansion during the attack. The images showed armed Costa guards surrounding her. They did not show the men firing from the road. By evening, reporters filled the street outside the estate. Government investigators announced that they would request a welfare inspection. Matteo had transformed a private war into a public scandal. Carlo demanded that Isabella sign custody of Sophia over to Alessandro. She refused. Everett warned that removing her by force could trigger the Trust Protection Clause and freeze every Costa shipping asset. Alessandro listened without expression. Then he dismissed the room. Isabella remained. What are you going to do? She asked. Give Matteo a story more powerful than his. The next morning, Alessandro announced that Isabella Grant was not a prisoner. She was the legal guardian of his daughter and the woman he intended to marry. Isabella heard the announcement from the television. She walked into his office without knocking. You told the world we are engaged. Alessandro continued signing a document. I told the world you are under my protection. Those are not the same thing. To men like Matteo. They are. You did not ask me. You would have said no. Correct? Then asking would have wasted time. Isabella placed both hands on his desk. I am not one of your employees. I am aware. I am not one of your soldiers. Very aware. And I am not going to pretend to be in love with you because it helps your business. His pen stopped. Love was not part of the statement. Her face became warm. That is not the point. The point is that Matteo has convinced the public I am holding you here. If you stand beside me willingly, his argument weakens. Then I will stand beside you as the guardian of Sofia. That will not be enough. Why? Because guardians can be threatened. His gaze moved slowly over her face. A future wife belongs inside the walls of the family. Isabella straightened. I do not belong to you. No. His voice became softer. But Matteo needs to believe you do. The first public appearance would take place at a charity gala owned by Acosta Foundation. Isabella had less than a day to prepare. A team arrived with gowns, jewelry, and shoes. She rejected the first 3 dresses. Each seemed designed to hide her body beneath fabric. The fourth was deep green, fitted at the waist, and elegant without apology. When Isabella stepped into the ballroom that evening, conversation stopped. She had spent most of her life wishing rooms would not notice her. Now hundreds of people turned to look. Alessandro waited at the bottom of the staircase. His expression remained controlled. Only his eyes changed. They moved over her slowly, not with surprise, but with the dangerous concentration of a man discovering that something already valuable had become impossible to ignore. Isabella descended. You are staring, she said. Everyone is staring. I asked about you. His hand settled at her waist. The touch was part of the performance. It did not feel like acting. I am deciding how many people will regret it, he said. That sounded dangerously close to jealousy. It was not jealousy. What was it? Possession? She looked up at him. I told you I do not belong to you. His thumb moved once against the fabric of her dress. Then stop looking at me as though you want me to prove you wrong. Her breath caught. Before she could answer, cameras flashed. Alessandro guided her through the ballroom. He introduced her to judges, business leaders, and men whose smiles never reached their eyes. Isabella understood the purpose of every touch. A hand against her back, fingers closing around hers, a quiet word beside her ear. He was telling the room that harming her would mean challenging him. Still, each gesture left heat behind. Halfway through dinner, a man named Adrian Bell approached Isabella while Alessandro spoke with a senator. Adrian was young, wealthy, and too confident. He told her the green dress made the entire evening worthwhile. Isabella thanked him politely. He asked whether the engagement was real. Before she could answer, Alessandro appeared beside her. Mr. Bell, he said. Adrian smiled. Costa, I was congratulating your future wife. You were looking at her as though congratulations required imagination. The smile faded. Isabella placed one hand on the arm of Alessandro. We were only speaking. Alessandro looked down at her hand. His anger did not disappear. It changed direction. Dance with me, he said. That was not a request. On the ballroom floor, he drew her close. Isabella felt every controlled movement of his body. You threatened a donor at your own charity, she said. I stated an observation. You were jealous. No? Then why are you holding me so tightly? His gaze locked with hers. Because every man in this room is trying to determine whether the engagement is real, and his hand pressed more firmly against her waist. I dislike leaving questions unanswered. Music surrounded them. The room disappeared. For one suspended moment, his face lowered toward hers. Isabella forgot the cameras. She forgot Matteo. She forgot the armed guards behind every curtain. Alessandro stopped before their lips touched. The restraint was worse than a kiss. Then the chandelier above them exploded. Glass fell like ice. Alessandro pulled Isabella against his chest and covered her with his body. Gunfire erupted from the balcony. Guests screamed. Security rushed toward the stairs. Alessandro pushed Isabella behind a stone column. Stay here. Where is Sophia? At the mansion. Then go. He looked at her as though she had spoken another language. You are under attack. Sophia could be the real target. The thought struck him. He turned to his security chief. Gabriel, lock down the estate. A bullet struck the column. Alessandro covered Isabella again and fired toward the balcony. The shooter disappeared behind a curtain. Black smoke filled the ballroom. Alessandro took the hand of Isabella and ran through a service corridor. Men rushed behind them. At the end of the hall, a masked attacker stepped from a doorway. Alessandro fired first. The man fell out of sight. Isabella froze. Alessandro caught her face between his hands. Look at me. She did. Do not look anywhere else. There was blood on his collar, but she could not tell whether it belonged to him. Are you hurt? She asked. No. He pulled her closer. His forehead touched hers for one breath. Then he moved them toward the exit. Outside, rain had begun again. Black vehicles surrounded the hotel. Alessandro pushed Isabella into the back seat and entered beside her. As the vehicle accelerated, he kept one arm around her. She could feel his heart beating hard beneath his shirt. You were afraid, she said. He looked through the dark window. No. For Sophia, his arm tightened. For you? The admission seemed to anger him. He released her and turned away. When they reached the mansion, Sophia was safe. Isabella ran into the nursery. Alessandro followed more slowly. She lifted the baby and held her until the shaking in her hands stopped. Alessandro stood in the doorway. His shirt was torn at the shoulder. A thin line of blood marked his skin. Sit down, Isabella said. It is nothing. Sit. Something in her voice made him obey. She cleaned the wound while Sophia watched from the crib. Alessandro said nothing as Isabella opened his shirt far enough to reach the cut. Her fingers moved carefully over his shoulder. The closeness made every breath feel loud. You protected me before you knew where the shots were coming from, she said. That is what protection means. You could have been killed. So could you. I am not the one running an empire. No. His gaze moved over her face. You are the one holding it together. Her hand stopped. Alessandro lifted his fingers. He brushed a damp strand of hair from her cheek. The touch was unexpectedly gentle. Isabella looked at him. He leaned closer. This time, no music covered the silence. No cameras watched. No audience waited. His mouth stopped near hers. Tell me to stop, he said. She should have. Instead, she whispered his name. The kiss was slow, controlled at first. Then something inside him broke. His hand moved behind her neck as he kissed her with the intensity he had denied since the night she entered his home. Isabella gripped his shirt. The world became warmth, breath, and dangerous relief. Then Sophia began to cry. They separated. Alessandro closed his eyes. Isabella almost laughed, but the emotion caught in her throat. He looked toward the crib. Your timing is unfortunate, he told his daughter. Sophia cried louder. Isabella picked her up. When she turned back, Alessandro had rebuilt every wall around himself. The kiss will not happen again, he said. Pain moved through her before she could hide it. Of course. It was a mistake. Isabella held Sophia closer. Then try not to make it twice. She walked past him. Alessandro remained alone in the nursery. The following morning, Isabella discovered the surveillance room. She had been searching for a quiet office where she could call the attorney. A locked door stood open at the end of the West Hall. Inside, screens covered one wall. Most displayed security cameras around the estate. The others showed archived images. Isabella saw herself on one screen. She stood outside a Boston grocery store. Another image showed her at a train station. Another showed her sitting beside Valentina in a park months before Sophia was born. Hundreds of photographs filled the folders. Isabella felt the floor shift beneath her. Alessandro entered behind her. She turned. You were watching me. He closed the door. Yes. For how long? 11 months. Before I came here. Yes. Before you knew about Sophia. His silence answered. Isabella looked at the photographs. Why I was searching for Valentina. That explains the first week. It does not explain this. She opened a folder. The photograph showed Isabella alone. Walking to work. Buying coffee. Reading on a balcony. Alessandro stood completely still. You kept watching me, she said. Yes. Why? He could have lied. Instead, he moved closer. Because you were the only person around Valentina who did not behave like a criminal. That is not enough. No. Then tell me the truth. His expression hardened with resistance. Isabella waited. Finally, he spoke. I wanted to understand why you stayed. Stayed with her. Stayed kind. The answer caught her off guard. You knew she was lying. You knew she was in danger. You knew anyone near her could be hurt. Yet every image showed you returning. She was my friend. People abandon friends for less. I am not people. No. His gaze moved across her face. You are not. Isabella felt the dangerous pull between them again. Then she remembered the cameras. You invaded my life. I protected you. You watched me without permission. If I had not watched, I would not have known Matteo sent men to your neighborhood. You knew I was in danger and never warned me. I removed every threat before it reached you. Until the night, they broke into the apartment. His jaw tightened. That team used someone inside my organization. Isabella shook her head. You do not get to turn control into care. The word struck him. She moved toward the door. He caught her wrist. Not hard. Only enough to stop her. I did not know how to approach you without leading my enemies to Valentina. You could have trusted me. I trusted no one. That is your choice. It does not have to become mine. She pulled her hand free. The distance between them became colder than anger. That night, the mansion lost power. Emergency lights came on. Then someone opened the gates from inside. 3 black vehicles entered the estate. Alessandro heard the alert through his private radio. He ran toward the nursery. The hallway erupted with gunfire. A guard fell behind a marble pillar. Alessandro returned fire and reached the upper floor. The nursery door was open. The crib was empty. For one terrible second, the world became silent. Then he heard Isabella shouting from the service stairs. Alessandro followed. She was barefoot, running with Sophia tied against her chest. A masked man came from the lower landing. Isabella grabbed a brass lamp and swung it into his arm. His weapon fell. Alessandro reached them and fired. The man collapsed beyond the railing. He pulled Isabella behind him. How did they get inside? Someone opened the gates, she said. They reached the underground garage. Gabriel waited with an armored vehicle. Alessandro pushed Isabella and Sophia into the back. Carlo ran from another corridor. The east wing is lost. Carlo said, We need to leave. Alessandro entered the vehicle beside Isabella. Where are we going? She asked. A safe house on the coast. As the mansion burned behind them, Isabella watched orange light fill the rainy sky. Alessandro sat across from her. He had blood on one hand. His face looked carved from stone. Yet his eyes never left Sophia or Isabella. The safe house stood above a stormy shoreline 2 hours from Chicago. It was smaller than the mansion, hidden between cliffs and pine trees. Only 6 guards knew the location. Alessandro placed Sophia in the single protected bedroom. Isabella followed him onto a balcony overlooking the dark water. Someone inside your family betrayed us, she said. Yes. Do you know who I know who had access to the gate system? Carlo. He did not answer. That was answer enough. Your uncle wants Sophia. My uncle wants the trust, and Matteo promised it to him. Alessandro looked toward the waves. Carlo spent 30 years believing my father stole the empire from him. Sophia gives him a legal path to take it back. Isabella folded her arms against the wind. Then, we cannot stay here. This location is secure. You said only 6 guards knew about it. Yes. Does Carlo know? Alessandro turned toward her. A light appeared on the road below. Then another. Then 10 more. Black vehicles climbed the hill. Alessandro drew his weapon. Take Sophia through the tunnel beneath the kitchen. What about you? I will delay them. Isabella grabbed his arm. No. His gaze dropped to her hand. You cannot order me to leave you here. I can order everyone, not me. His face moved closer. For once. Isabella, do what I tell you. Why? Because I cannot fight while wondering whether you are alive. The truth in his voice stopped her. Alessandro touched her cheek. The gesture lasted only a second. Then he pushed her toward the door. Gabriel led Isabella into the tunnel with Sophia. The passage ended near the beach. A boat waited beyond the rocks. They were halfway across the sand when 2 men stepped from behind the trees. Gabriel fired. 1 man returned fire. Isabella dropped behind a stone wall and covered Sophia with her body. The baby screamed. Another man approached from the shoreline. Isabella searched the ground and found a flare launcher stored beside the emergency boat. She aimed and fired. Red light exploded across the night. The attacker turned away. Gabriel stopped him. Seconds later, Alessandro emerged from the tunnel. His shirt was dark with rain. His face carried a cut near one temple. He crossed the beach and pulled Isabella to her feet. Are you hurt? No. Sophia, safe. He looked at the flare burning on the sand. You fired that I told you I was not helpless. His hand closed behind her neck. He kissed her before she could breathe. It was not controlled. It was fear, anger, and relief. When he pulled away, his forehead rested against hers. I thought I had lost you. You did not. Do not ever make me think it again. That sounds like an order. It is a confession. Before she could answer, Gabriel called from the boat. More vehicles are coming. They escaped across the water. At dawn, Alessandro received a message from Matteo. The exchange would happen at St. Gabriel Church that night. Valentina for Sophia. No soldiers inside. No weapons. Isabella read the message. He will kill her if we do nothing. He will kill everyone if we obey. Then we create another choice. Alessandro looked at her. There is no other choice. There is always another choice. Powerful men simply dislike choices they cannot control. He almost smiled. Then tell me, yours. Isabella looked toward Sophia, sleeping inside the boat cabin. We give Matteo what he believes he needs. The guardian. Alessandro became completely still. No. The trust responds to me. Isabella said. Sophia is only valuable if someone can control her inheritance. If I appear willing to sign authority over to him, he will keep Valentina alive long enough to finish the transfer. No. You asked for my choice. I rejected it. You cannot protect everyone by standing in front of every bullet. Watch me. The answer should have frightened her. Instead, it broke something tender inside her. Isabella stepped closer. You told me fear would keep me alive. Yes. Then you should understand why I'm afraid to let you do this alone. His hand lifted. He stopped before touching her. She closed the distance herself and pressed his palm against her cheek. The denial in his eyes weakened. I cannot lose you, he said. The words were barely audible. You barely know me. I knew you before you entered my house. No. You watched me. I watched you care for people who gave you nothing. I watched you carry groceries for an old woman in your building. I watched you sit beside Valentina through every doctor visit. I watched you protect my daughter before I knew her name. His thumb moved across her cheek. I know enough. Isabella looked into the eyes of a man feared by an entire city. For the first time, she saw fear there. Not fear of death, fear of needing someone. What happens after tonight? She asked. After tonight, Matteo will be dead. That is not what I meant. He understood. His gaze dropped. After tonight, you will still be the guardian of Sophia. And the engagement, it will no longer be necessary. The pain was immediate. Isabella released his hand. Of course, Alessandro caught her before she could step away. Necessary is not the same as wanted. She looked back at him. Then what do you want? His answer came without hesitation. You. The church stood abandoned on the edge of the city. Rain moved through broken windows. Candles burned along the old stone altar. Isabella entered alone. She wore a hidden transmitter beneath her coat and carried the guardianship papers in a leather folder. Sophia remained with Gabriel in an armored vehicle 3 blocks away. Alessandro had argued until the final minute. Then he kissed Isabella once and told her that if the signal disappeared, he would burn the entire district to reach her. Matteo Moretti waited beside the altar. He was an elegant man with silver hair and eyes without warmth. Carlo Costa stood beside him. Valentina sat in a wooden chair near the sanctuary. She was pale and exhausted, but alive. Isabella stopped. Valentina lifted her head. You should not have come. I promised to protect Sophia, then protect her by leaving. Matteo smiled. The loyalty of ordinary women is remarkable. They give everything because the world has convinced them they should be grateful for being needed. Isabella looked at him. You know nothing about me. I know you spent your life serving families that treated you as furniture. Valentina offered friendship. Sophia offered purpose. Alessandro offered desire. His smile widened. Now you believe you matter. Isabella held the folder tighter. Where is the attorney first? Tell me where the child is. Safe? Carlo stepped forward. You cannot control this room. Maybe not. She looked at him. But neither can you. A sound moved through the church roof. A helicopter. Matteo looked up. Isabella pressed the transmitter. Every candle went dark. The side windows shattered inward as Costa guards entered. Gunfire echoed through the church. Isabella ran toward Valentina. Carlo caught her by the arm. He pressed a gun against her side. The lights returned. Alessandro stood at the center aisle. Rain and blood marked his black shirt. His weapon was aimed at Carlo. Let her go, Alessandro said. Carlo pulled Isabella closer. Drop the gun. Alessandro did. The weapon struck the stone floor. Matteo dragged Valentina from the chair. He held another gun near her back. This is why you were never fit to lead, Matteo told Alessandro. You spent your life believing attachment was weakness, then allowed one woman and one infant to become your entire world. Alessandro looked at Isabella. No. His voice remained calm. They did not make me weak. They gave me something worth destroying you for. Matteo smiled. And where is the child? Far from you. Carlo pushed the gun harder against Isabella. Tell him. Isabella met the gaze of Alessandro. She saw his hand move by less than an inch. She understood. Isabella dropped her weight and drove her elbow backward. Carlo lost his grip. Alessandro reached the weapon on the floor. 2 shots echoed. Carlo fell behind a row of wooden benches. Matteo fired toward Alessandro. Valentina twisted away. The bullet struck stone. Alessandro returned fire. Matteo stumbled against the altar. His weapon fell. The church became silent except for rain. Matteo looked down at the dark stain, spreading across his suit. Then he looked at his daughter. You ruined everything, he whispered. Valentina shook her head. No, you did. Matteo collapsed. Alessandro crossed the church toward Isabella. She had fallen near the steps. He dropped to his knees beside her. Are you hurt? I do not think so. His hands moved over her arms and face. Searching. His control was gone. Isabella touched the cut near his temple. You came inside before the signal. You were silent for 11 seconds. That was enough. 10 would have been enough. Behind them, Gabriel freed Valentina. She looked toward Alessandro. I am sorry, she said. He did not answer. Valentina approached slowly. I thought keeping Sofia from you would protect her. You were wrong. Yes. The admission carried no defense. I was wrong about many things. Alessandro stood. Why did you leave? My father told me you planned to use the baby to activate the trust. Carlo gave him documents bearing your signature. Carlo forged them. Alessandro said, I know that now. Valentina looked toward Isabella. When I discovered the truth, Sofia had already been born. Matteo found us. Isabella helped us escape. Why did you disappear 9 days ago? I went to meet a federal investigator. I wanted to trade everything I knew about the Moretti organization for protection. Matteo captured me first. Isabella took her hand. Sofia is safe. Tears entered the eyes of Valentina. Did she miss me? Every day. Alessandro looked away. The pain on his face was small but unmistakable. Valentina saw it. She will know you are her father, she said. That depends on what you decide. It depends on Isabella. The two women looked at each other. Valentina continued. The guardianship was never meant to steal Sofia from either of us. It was meant to prevent our families from claiming her as property. Isabella has always been the person Sofia trusts most. She should remain her guardian. Alessandro looked at Isabella. And you, Valentina, glanced toward the broken church doors where federal vehicles were arriving. I will testify. Then, I will enter protection until the remaining Moretti leaders are gone. You would leave her again. I would stay if staying did not place a target on her crib. The answer held a pain Isabella understood. Valentina kissed the fingers of Sofia in a photograph Isabella carried. Then she turned to Alessandro. Do not repeat the sins of our fathers. Do not teach her that love is another form of control. Alessandro said nothing. Valentina gave Isabella one final embrace. Protect him too, she whispered. He will hate needing it. Outside the church, dawn began to rise. Rain softened to mist. Alessandro walked beside Isabella toward a waiting vehicle. He moved more slowly than usual. At the door, Isabella stopped. Is it over? Matteo is dead. Carlo is dead. The trust attorneys are in custody. The remaining Moretti leaders will fight over the ruins. That was not what I meant. He looked at her. The engagement. The lie. His face revealed nothing. Isabella felt foolish for asking. She turned toward the vehicle. Alessandro caught her hand. It was never a lie. You announced it without asking me. Yes. You said it was necessary. It was. And now, he moved closer. Now it is the only future I can imagine without wanting to tear the world apart. Isabella searched his face. That is not a proposal. No. He released her hand. Then the most feared man in Chicago lowered himself to one knee on the wet church steps. Armed guards looked away. Federal agents stopped speaking. Alessandro took a small ring from his pocket. Isabella stared. You carried a ring into a gunfight. I had 3 escape plans. 2 weapons. And a ring. That is either romantic or deeply concerning. Both. For the first time, Alessandro Costa smiled. It transformed him. Not into a gentler man, into a man who finally allowed joy to reach his face. Isabella Grant. You entered my home, carrying the only thing I never knew I needed. You challenged every order, rejected every threat, and refused to let me confuse power with love. He looked up at her. I cannot promise to become harmless. I would not believe you. I can promise that no decision involving you or Sophia will ever be made without your voice. I can promise that every enemy I have will know your safety comes before my empire. I can promise that when fear tells me to control you, I will choose to trust you. His voice became quieter. And I can promise that I will spend the rest of my life proving that you were never difficult to love. The words reached every wound Isabella had hidden behind strength, every room that had made her feel too visible, every person who had made her feel not visible enough. She looked at the ring, then at the man kneeling in the rain. Ask me properly, she whispered. His eyes darkened with emotion. Will you marry me? Yes. Alessandro placed the ring on her finger. Then he stood and kissed her beneath the pale morning sky. Months later, the Costa mansion looked different. The walls remained guarded. Black vehicles still waited beyond the gates. Power still moved through every room, but the nursery lights remained on through the night. Children from a local shelter played in the gardens each weekend through a foundation Isabella created. The Costa Shipping Trust was restructured so Sophia could inherit without becoming responsible for criminal operations. Alessandro transferred every legal business into protected ownership and dismantled the secret roots that had allowed men like Matteo to control entire cities. He did not become innocent. No one expected him to. He became deliberate. Every choice passed through one question. Would this bring danger closer to his family on a snowy evening? Isabella stood in the nursery holding Sophia beside the window. The little girl was almost 1 year old. Alessandro entered after a meeting. The moment Sophia saw him, she reached both arms forward. He took her with confidence now. No hesitation. No fear of breaking something fragile. Sophia touched his face and said her first clear word. Dada. Alessandro froze. Isabella smiled. Say it again, he whispered. Sophia laughed. Dada. The man who had faced guns, betrayals, and entire criminal armies lowered his head against the hair of his daughter. His eyes closed. Isabella walked closer. Alessandro reached for her without looking. His arm closed around her waist. For a while, they stood together before the snowy windows. A powerful man, a brave woman, a child both families had once tried to claim. The world beyond the gates remained dangerous. There would always be enemies. There would always be men who mistook cruelty for strength. Yet inside the candlelit mansion, Alessandro finally understood what Valentina had asked of him. He had chosen human lives over an empire. Isabella rested her head against his shoulder. Sophia placed one small hand against each of them. Alessandro looked at the woman who had arrived in the rain, carrying his daughter. You were supposed to leave before midnight, he said. I tried. You did not try very hard. Your guards locked the gates. I would lock them again. Isabella looked up at him. That sounds like control. His hand moved gently along her waist. Then perhaps I should open every gate and let us leave. No. His gaze held hers. So the entire world can see that you stayed because you chose me. He kissed her slowly as snow fell beyond the windows. And for the first time in the history of the Costa family, the mansion was not protected by fear. It was protected by something far more dangerous. A mafia boss who finally had someone he could not live without.